Well, hello there. Miss me? I know I missed you, and so glad that we're going to get to do this tonight, right? I got my coffee, although I did get here a bit early, and so it's like half empty already, right? But needless to say, we're here. Your emails have been seen. I must tell you, those of you that have been asking about Coffee Talk and the podcast, there's a lot going on. And matter of fact, the Texas News podcast, which actually takes place like right there. The storm that came through kind of shredded our gear. So it's been a little difficult. Anyway, before I get into any of that, let me just say how much I appreciate you being here tonight for this very tardy late night coffee talk, and promises made. It's going to happen on a regular schedule again. All these things have to take place for it to happen. So here we are. We'll be back on our regular schedule sooner rather than later, and there will always be plenty of coffee. Anyway, for those of you who just jumped in here and have absolutely no idea what's going on, I'm Daniel Miller, president of the Texas Nationalist movement, and this is Late Night Coffee Talk, that time where I take a break from doing what I'm doing, which is working for Texas independence, apparently from the time I roll out of the rack to the time I roll back into the rack, which may or may not be sometime between 3 and 5 a.m., just saying, and have a cup of coffee and answer your questions. Talk about the things that are on your mind. You know, we publish articles on the website. We've got the Texas News podcast. We get to talk about all the stuff that we need to talk about with you guys. But tonight is your night, right? This is Late Night Coffee Talk. This is where you get to pepper me with your questions. And hopefully they're good ones, right? No offense to anyone out there who says, hey, you need to even answer the most basic questions, even if it's the Social Security question for the 60th time. Understand that I only have a limited amount of time. So I'm going to try to cover things, answer questions that may be timely or that I may not get to very often. And if you submit your question and it's been answered ad nauseum, I may sort of direct you to a place where you can get the answer to that. But no harm, no foul, right? I mean, we're all here. We're all working for the same thing. We're all on the same team. So I'm very appreciative, by the way, for everyone who has written in when they got the announcement that this was going down tonight and sent their questions in, but not only sent their questions in, just said how much they appreciate us doing what we're doing. I have got a bevy of questions here that have been submitted. If you have not gotten your question in, I would encourage you to either drop in the chat. Tonight we're on Facebook, X, and YouTube. Be sure to drop it in the chat. It'll feed over here. We'll try to grab as many of them as we can and take care of them in the time allotted. Additionally, if you are on TNM, if you're already a registered supporter, you already have access to the TNM's own internal organizing tool, right? TNM Social. And there is a group over there for Late Night Coffee Talk. In fact, most of the questions tonight come from there. So I would encourage you to head over there, log into the TNM website, tnm.me. You'll see the social link at the top. That'll take you right over there to TNM Social. Or do the cool thing and download the TNM mobile app, right? Log in there, and then you can have access to all of that. All right. Regardless of where you're watching, if you would be so kind as to like and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, hit that notification bell so you can get notifications every time we go live or every time we post new videos. And of course, comment, share, do all the cool things that are required by the algorithm. All right. Now that we got that done, I will tell you, I've already perused a bunch of the questions that have come in, and we got some good ones tonight. I mean, not that we don't have good ones every night, but this is going to be really, I think, an interesting one. Yeah, and I see you guys pouring them in on the chat too, so that's pretty awesome. All right, a couple of things first. I'm going to be able to knock a couple of these out right out of the gate, right? Because we do have a bit of a backlog, right? So let me tell you, in the time since we did the last coffee talk, the most emails, correspondence that I have gotten, oddly enough, has been about this.
Good day. I'm Daniel Miller, president of the...
Which is not going to play, apparently. Isn't that lovely? Okay, hang on. I got this. I knew I'd figure it out. Let's see if it'll do it now.
Good day. I'm Daniel Miller, president of the Texas Nationalist movement, and today I address President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador of the United States of Mexico, its citizens, and most importantly, the people of Texas and the northern states of Mexico.
Okay, so let me address some of the questions that have come in, and I'm not going to attribute these specifically to anyone because there have been a bushel basket full of them. For those of you who don't know what that is, head over to the TNM news site, news.tnm.me. You'll see sort of the full story, the full video there. But I had recorded a video message to the president of Mexico, essentially saying that we were going to, because of their flaunting and their assistance with, I guess, to the federal government in violating our sovereignty and our border, that we were going to start throwing our full support behind the secessionist movements in the northern states of Mexico. And now, some people say, why are you picking a fight with Mexico? I'm not picking a fight with Mexico. Mexico's picking a fight with us. But that's beside the point, right? So some of the questions that came out about that was, number one, some people didn't know. Some of the media didn't believe that there was a secessionist movement or movements or groups in northern Mexico. Now here's the funny part about that. Many people out there in the TNM seem to remember not that long ago a live webinar that we had right here. We streamed it. It's still out there. It's still in the archives on YouTube. I think it's still on our Facebook channel. Our Facebook page. Excuse me. But it was a webinar entitled Global Exit and the Americas. And we had representatives from independence movements around the world. And some that we happened to feature. Of course, we had, you guys know, we had Marcus Ruiz Evans from the Cal Exit movement. We had Elliot Axelman from New Hampshire, and we had representatives from Mexico and from Puerto Rico, and we had attempted to get someone from Alberta, but we couldn't work out scheduling. But the bottom line is, if the media had bothered, and I'm not saying all the media, some picked up on it, but if they'd bothered just to pay attention to what we've been doing for any length of time whatsoever, they would have known. We've not only already been communicating with these folks, but we've actually featured them and highlighted them in what we do. And the interesting thing about the entire statement to Mexico is it didn't really represent a policy shift for us, right? We have, and any of you who know, we have been committed to communicating with other independence movements around the world. We have spoken at international conferences. We've been the guest of other independence movements around the world. I spoke many years ago at the conference, the annual conference for MSPI, which is the independence movement for Sao Paulo, Brazil. It wasn't that long ago that we spoke at a conference on a panel in New Hampshire. We've done it twice to talk about this issue of independence. We were at Freedom Fest in Memphis last year, talking about this on a panel alongside the folks from New Hampshire. So, I mean, this is not, shouldn't be a shock to anyone, but some people's kids, right? I mean, you give somebody a word processor and suddenly they may or may not be a journalist. Not going to say that about all of them. We've actually had a run of working with some great folks, but I got to tell you guys, there's some duds out there. Okay, so that was one of the most asked questions, why the Mexico thing? And again, it's not a major policy shift for us. And let's be honest, if the people in northern Mexico are just as tired of the corruption of Mexico City, and Mexico City's official policy is to do everything they can to undermine the border between Mexico and Texas, the coolest thing and the best thing we can do, and upholding our mission and upholding our principles of self-determination, is to work with them and help them be successful. I mean, what if Obrador woke up, a year from now and all of a sudden, the northern Mexican border was just a little closer to Mexico City? I would say that would be a situation. And I got to tell you, the folks in northern Mexico are just as sick and tired of the corruption in the cartels as we are here in Texas. So take that. Now, the other thing that was quite interesting that I got a lot of questions about was this, oddly enough.
Hola, soy Daniel Miller, presidente del Movimiento Nacionalista de Texas. Hoy me dirijo al presidente Andrés Manuel López Obrador de México, a sus ciudadanos y...
Okay, enough of that. So the questions that I got about that were, wow, you speak Spanish? No, I don't. So if you approach me speaking Spanish, I don't know it. I'm not fluent, and anyone who has spent any time around me knows I know about as much Spanish as I learned from Gene Autry movies when I was a kid. So that just suddenly made me sound like I was 80 years old. I got it. Okay. So needless to say, through the miracle of technology, we were able to get that translated, and yes, it does look like it. So fun. So no, I don't know Spanish. But I thought it was important to send that message in the Spanish language, because if I'm going to address the president of Mexico, I might as well just do it in Spanish, right? That way there can be no misunderstandings. So there's that. Okay, let me check right here. See what we got. See if we got any that have come into chat. Okay. So I'll get to the chat one. So let me just start rolling with these questions. And if you're just now joining us, if you have questions, be sure to drop them in chat, either YouTube, Facebook. I think we now have it set to where we can get them via X or Twitter, whichever you prefer calling it. But those are, you can, I think that works now. So be sure to send them over there. Of course, you can always drop them. You'll see the address scrolling here at the bottom to coffeetalk@etnm.org. All right, here we go. First, I guess you could, I'm not going to say it's the first question because that was like a bundle, but we'll say that like the first individual question. How about that? This is from Ray. Ray says, what makes TEXIT believe the GOP will ever be supportive in any way to this movement? The GOP are a conservative trap, and outside of divisive issues is no different than the Democrats. We no longer live in a republic or even a democracy. The oligarchy has ensured we have the best government money can buy. That last statement, 100%. I can tell you right now, anyone who thinks that money doesn't have a major influence on politics just is not. You're just not paying attention. Everything has a cost, and frankly, not all politicians, but a large number of them have a price tag attached, right? They should be like NASCAR drivers and have to wear the logos all over their jumpsuits. But let me address this, right? Because you're in your question talking about the GOP ever being supportive in any way. The Republican Party is an organization, and oddly enough, it's one thing that outgoing RPT chairman Matt Rinaldi and I agree on, which is as an organization, they are constructed however they're an organization. They're like the Lions Club or the Rotarians or whatever. The problem is that the political parties have become grafted into Texas law. You go into the Texas election code. I mean, were that not the case, we would not have been able to deal with the petition issue, right? We still would not have recourse as we get ready to move forward, because they are private organizations that have effectively been grafted into Texas election law. They become a bit of a hybrid animal. Now, I think it's important to separate, and I would say this not just for the GOP, but I would say even for libertarians or Democrats or TNMers, right? Whatever you want to call it. I look at the organization and the individuals in perhaps a different way, right? And particularly when you have an organization, say like the political parties, that are made up of these individual constituent members that have their own beliefs, and that causes the organization to maybe shift one direction or the other throughout its duration. I mean, let's be honest, we've seen an ideological slide in some of these party apparatuses, right? So I think it's important to really look at what the track record here is. We're not looking for the GOP to support it, right? What we're looking for is we're looking for individuals. We're looking for Texans to support this issue. And those Texans will, in turn, express their will in whatever bodies they're a part of, whatever organizations they're a part of, be it the Republican Party, the Libertarian Party, the Lions Club, the Rotarians, whatever it is, right? We're not recruiting political parties. We're out here trying to bring more Texans into the fold to help them understand the benefits of Texas independence. And the importance of that is, and this actually gets to a question that we got via TNM Social, but the importance of that is this: we're always going to be, as an organization, we're going to be fundamentally grounded by Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution. It says all political powers inherent in the people. If you work to win the people, the rest takes care of itself, right? And some people may say, like you talked about in your question about the oligarchs, true. I mean, there's no doubt about it that political corruption is rampant and disenfranchisement is high, but there is a point in political and social movements where you hit a tipping point where no matter what sort of system or gimmick they've got going on, it falls. And you can look at the latter half of the 20th century as you saw the explosion of self-governing nation states to tell the tale of that tape. And so I would just say this, I appreciate the fact you have strong thoughts about the political parties. I'm sure many in Texas share your sentiments that the political parties can be at times problematic. But I think it's important to look at it from the viewpoint of what we're doing here in the TNM and say, look, we're not focusing on a political party. We're focusing on people, and those people, if they want to make their organization align with their desire, then they have the opportunity to do that. So anyway, thank you for your question, Ray. All right. Okay, I tell you what, let's take this one from chat real quick. The Crunch Bite says, are there any plans to pressure Abbott to convert the Texas National Guard and the State Guard to circumvent federalization? I can't speak for what Governor Abbott is going to do or what he's not going to do. What I can tell you is that we've been putting political pressure on that particular aspect of this for years. I mean, literally now at this point, 12 years. Because it's been the official position of the organization that all of the border issues, really and truly, not just the border issues. We've said that the State Guard should be fully militarized, should be fully funded. It's our belief that Operation Lone Star should have been funds shifted for a full militarization and deployment of the State Guard and open that enlistment wide up for prior service military to come in there. I mean, we could effectively within weeks have our own military, but there's other things going on. I'll be talking about that on the next episode of the Texas News Podcast, where we're seeing the federal government already start to make these underhanded attempts to sap the National Guard. And I would say that Governor Abbott is going to be in a bit of a predicament here, particularly with the border issue where it is. If the federal government senses that there is a weak spot there that they can exploit where they can sap the National Guard from the state, then Texas will have no choice but to double down on the State Guard and to do exactly what we're doing. And I got to tell you, it's been pretty interesting to watch many things that we have been official policy positions of the TNM come to fruition. Remember, we're an organization that is about the political, cultural, and the economic independence of Texas and the establishment and the protection of a constitutional republic and the inherent rights of the people of Texas. TEXIT is a piece of that. That's not the whole thing, right? Ultimately, the goal is independence. So there are things that we can do between now and getting and winning a vote on this issue, and there are going to be things that we have to do after. But it has been interesting in relation to, watching this situation with the border and Governor Abbott, to see so many of the things we've advocated for years come to life and become the official position of the government of Texas. So not a bad situation, right? Okay, here we go. Oh, that's fun. I just saw a new feature. That's how long I've been away. Okay, all right, back to the Republican Party. Eric asks, he says, the Republican Party of Texas convention is coming up later this month, and there are several party leadership positions up for election at that event. Which candidates for state chairman and SREC members are best aligned with the TNM? That's a great question. So obviously the first thing you got to do is got to go look, see who signed the Texas First Pledge, right? You go to taketexasback.com and see what candidates have signed the pledge. But that being said, it is up to the individual candidates to differentiate themselves. And I'll go ahead and say this. We are working right now. So many of you will remember 2 years ago, the TNM hosted a live streamed virtual town hall with all of the, we invited all of the candidates, Republican candidates for governor, because that seemed to be where everything was, right? And so we had one, everyone but Greg Abbott showed up. And so we had this phenomenal virtual town hall. We're getting ready to do that very same thing with state chair candidates, and it's in the works. So I would say stay tuned. But look, I would encourage you to reach out to these folks. If you have questions, ask them the questions and determine if what they say aligns with the pledge that they took. And if they haven't taken the Texas First Pledge, you really should encourage them to do so. Look, that pledge is not just for candidates, right? That's for even people who already hold elected office. So if someone is running for office or is in office, you should encourage them to go take that pledge. I mean, a lot of people have. So much so it sent the Dallas Morning News into a meltdown of fear. Oh my God, look at all these people that pledged to uphold the Constitution that they have to take an oath to on their first day of office. Crazy. All right, moving right along. All right, this is from Lou. Lou asks, could you comment on how a TEXIT would affect our focus on local/state government versus DC and the outside foreign money and business that are influencing our local politics and our Texan culture and way of life? Yeah, it's a great question. One of the things that we talk about a lot, and we get asked, because there are a lot of people frustrated with certain things with government in Austin, especially this last legislative session. I talked to a legislator the other day who referred to it appropriately as a dumpster fire of a session. Okay. But, we get asked about that a lot. And of course, jokingly, we refer to it as electile dysfunction. And, what you have to understand is so much of what we see, the problems that we have at the state level down to the county and municipal and school board level, a lot of those have direct or indirect connections to our continued relationship with the federal government. And so I will tell you that when you start talking about, wondering how TEXIT is going to affect those things, the first thing you have to do is picture what it would look like if Texas was an independent nation, right? What changes does that make? Okay, so number one, people are no longer focused on the ridiculous clown show that's going on in DC, right? Because let's be honest, that consumes most of the news cycle. What did Mike Johnson do? What did Pelosi do? What did Biden do? That's where people's attention is focused. And we get saturated with all things federal in the news, whether it's print, whether it's TV, whether it's radio. I mean, go turn on your talk radio guys, right? Your talk radio pundits are railing on and on about federal things. And granted, I mean, they give you a lot of material, but imagine if they're no longer there, right? Imagine if the federal government is not a factor in our day-to-day lives. Well, what does the news cover? What catches public awareness? Because it's not going to be the feds anymore. Well, it's going to be what's happening right here. It's going to be what's happening in Austin, what's happening in our county, what's happening in our city. and understand that so many of so much of the dysfunction that happens at the local level and at the state level happens as a result of not having the attention of the people, right? I mean, the media really doesn't cover it. I could guarantee you right now, while many of us are engrossed in this race, with David Covey and Dade Phelan, 99% of your countrymen probably couldn't pick Dade Phelan out of a lineup, right? But he's the Speaker of the House here in Texas. And so, the fact is that all of that nonsense that goes on right under our noses while everyone is paying attention to Mortimer on the Potomac. You take them out of the equation, where does the attention go? What goes there? That's just one aspect of it, right? I can't cover all of it, but I think you understand what I'm saying here is that, when you don't have the federal government sucking all the oxygen out of the room or gaining all the attention because it's a freak show, or you take something along the lines of how, we've talked about this already on this stream, where so much of politics is driven by money. Well, here in Texas, think about how much money flows from outside of Texas into elections right here in Texas. And think about how that potentially affects the outcome with exposure, things of that nature. Look, George Soros is not down here throwing money in DA and judges races because he needs to, a tax write-off. That's not what that is. It's there because it has an effect. They're spending that money because it matters. It makes a difference, and who they spend it on and the way they spend it makes a difference for what they're trying to do. Texas as an independent nation, suddenly all of those contributions from California and New York and K Street lobbyists in Washington, D.C., those are foreign contributions. They get treated just like if that money came out of Russia or China or Mexico or Europe or, any of these different places. So it's verboten. It's gone. It's forbidden. No more. It's just, you just don't get that anymore. And so now, what does that look like when you have your local races? All of a sudden now we're not having to spend big bucks on candidates that are running for Congress because, frankly, there's going to be 36 to 38 people out of a job, right, or more out of a job, because we don't have to worry about the federals anymore. So now all of a sudden, you know what? Maybe I can throw $50 to my guy that's running for school board, or throw $100 to my guy who's running for Texas House of Representatives, or whatever that looks like. Maybe now, without the feds again sucking all the oxygen out of the room, it shifts the balance of power back into the hands of the people and pushes that control and that oversight down closer to the local level. So for me, it's exciting. I mean, you have to almost what if the thing, you have to game it out and say, what does this look like without the federal government in the picture? And it changes so many things. All right, Lou, I appreciate the question, man. Thank you very much. All right, let's take these questions from TNM Social. All right, this one came from Scott. Scott says, and by the way, for those of you just joining us, TNM Social is our internal organizing tool for the TNM. All you have to do to get access is register your support, right? You go to vote.tnm.me, register your support. You can log in, you can access it and download our mobile app. You take it with you on the go. And one of the groups there specifically is for late night coffee talk. And that's where these questions come from. So this is from Scott. Scott says, usually an incumbent forced into a runoff loses the runoff. Are there any Texas First Pledge signers who seem to be at risk of losing the runoff who might need a boost of support? I'm going to tell you right now, the three candidates that we have in the running for Texas House, they need your support right now. The incumbents are absolutely just they're going crazy, right? I mean, they're dumping big money in because they know what you just said. An incumbent in a runoff is typically the loser. And, we saw that with, the seat that Briscoe Cain has now. We saw it, I think, with Bob Hall's race when he ran for state senate. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. And right now you've got David Covey, you've got that race. I mean, I just look, look at all these mailers. I mean, I'm getting mailers like crazy, right? But Covey's race, Andy Hopper, David Lowe, right? Those three are in runoffs right now. And I'm going to tell you, they are looking for all the help they can get. Greg Abbott just cut an ad in support of Lynn Stuckey. And I'm not even joking. The ad said that Hopper couldn't be trusted on the border. I don't know anyone who is more of a border hawk probably than Andy Hopper, right? They can't make up their minds about Hopper's stance on the border. First, they attacked him because they said he wanted to go to war with Mexico over the border, which I'm sure probably helped Andy in the polling, right? Although he didn't say that. That was their one take. Now they got Abbott saying, well, Hopper can't be trusted on the border. And it's like, I don't know that Lynn Stuckey could find the Texas-Mexico border on a map, okay? But yet suddenly Abbott's cutting ads, and it really is all about the school choice thing. That's really what it's all about. But look, Scott, I mean, these three beat out the incumbents in the runoffs, okay, or in the primaries, but wound up in a runoff. I don't, and I'm not apt to make hardcore predictions like this, but it's all going to be a matter of turnout. We know turnout's lower in these runoffs, which is why the incumbents have a tendency to lose. The base is fired up right now, but the incumbents are pouring a ton of money into these races. So I would say pick one, pick two, pick all three, but all three need help. All right. Let's get to Chris. Man, you guys are full of questions about the election and the GOP. This is fun. Chris asks, other than signing the Texas First Pledge, has Vice Chair Dr. Dana Myers come out with whether she condemned Matt Rinaldi's petition-killing actions in December or his bogus statements he made in January? I have not seen anything publicly, but understand that will, when we do a virtual town hall, that will be one of the questions that we put to all of them. And, look, we're going to leave it up to everyone to differentiate themselves. I'm not going to speak for them because unlike Matt Rinaldi, I'm not going to put my thumb on the scale, right? All of these people signed the pledge. The pledge is as it is, and it's up to them to differentiate themselves with you guys. And it's up to each of you to do any additional homework, to do any additional drill down. And we are going to, like I said, make some opportunities for that to take place. But I would ask, I will tell you, I got to know Dr. Dana when during the last election cycle, when I was running for lieutenant governor. Her husband, Dr. John Spires was running for land commissioner. And I got to see the good doc all over the place. And we got to be fantastic friends. And so I got to see Dr. Dana because she traveled around with him at all the campaign stops. And I will tell you, she has been a first-class individual. And so, she got elected vice chair 2 years ago. There's a reason for that. Okay. This question is from James. Man, the time is flying here. This question's from James. He says, for this cause, all politics start local. How is TEXIT doing among county commissioners, sheriffs, and political precinct captains? Does the TEXIT cause have a presence in these positions? If yes, how strong is it? And is it growing? All right. So let me go through that because I see a total of 3 question marks, and I'm sorry, sir, but it's limit 1 per customer without a coupon. I'll take all 3. Just kidding. Okay. How is TEXIT doing among county commissioners, sheriffs, and political precinct captains? That'd be your precinct chairs. I believe well. Obviously, there's always a lot of focus on legislative positions, but we run. Our strategy has always been from the state house to the schoolhouse. That's just the way that it's got to be. So it could be better. And that's why we encourage each and every one of you guys to engage your local officials on this particular issue. If you think it's just about the TEXIT vote, then you will focus exclusively on the impediment to the TEXIT vote or the next hurdle, which is the Texas legislature, right? That's the bottleneck. But when you truly grasp that it's not only about a TEXIT vote, it's about achieving independence. The TEXIT vote is a step on that path, right? I mean, it's a major milestone, but there are so many interactions that have to take place or need to take place at the local level among your local officials at whatever level, whether it's your school board, your city council, your county commissioners courts, whatever it is. It's those interactions that are going to help us not just get the referendum, but win the referendum. And then more importantly, on the other side of it, win the independence. And so I would just encourage you, and this is not directed at you, James, but really to everyone out there. I'm utilizing your question as a teaching moment. I think it's important for everyone. Go back and review the mission of the TNM. Go to the About page and go review the mission and understand what the goal is. And when you understand that really and truly the goal here is independence, then you'll understand why those interactions at the local level mean so much. It's almost like that question that I got earlier about the GOP. It's like, that's an organization. Organizations are made up of people. If you win the people, you can win the organization, right? And that's sort of this same thing. All political powers inherent in the people. So who are these county commissioners and sheriffs and precinct chairs? Well, they're people, right? And so, do we have a presence in these positions? Absolutely. And, it's growing. We actually have a campaign right now. If you go to the campaigns page on tnm.me, you will see it, where we are urging county commissioners courts to pass resolutions like the one that was passed in Edwards County, calling for a TEXIT vote, right? So it's there. But James, I would encourage you, go look at the campaigns page and sign up and help with that. We need all hands on deck for these things. All right, let me check this out over here. Oh, this is fun. Okay, so I'm going to put this up here because I'm going to get to nerd out for a minute. So here's my question for you, Jason. Are you Jason Todd Robin, or are you Jason Todd Red Hood? I don't know. And if that is your real name, I have to say that's pretty cool. All right. Jason wants to know, does Texas get a military before or after independence? We already have one. It's called the Texas Military Department. It is a quick search away. As a matter of fact, it's the Texas Military Department that's handling the bulk of the border activities right now. It's a 3-branch military made up of Air National Guard, Army National Guard, and Texas State Guard. But we already have a military. What we need to do is strengthen and expand that military so that when the day for independence comes, we will be in a much better position to much more quickly take on our own, the responsibilities for our own national defense. So good question, though. And still the cool name. That's so great. All right. Let's see here. Okay. All right. Here's a question from, man, you guys are really, you guys are all kind of circling around some of a very similar subject matter. Oh, by the way, for those of you that haven't joined me before, notice it's very different back here, isn't it? Spring cleaning. All right, Corinne Smith. Corinne says, hi, Daniel. Where are we on our petitions that got delivered to the governor due to bad boy Matt Rinaldi's games of manipulation? I assume they expire after a certain end date. Or do they remain effective for a little more time? Thanks for all you do. Send you some coffee soon. Thank you for that. Matter of fact, the coffee I'm drinking tonight was a care package from the Brunics. They sent me some coffee from Mario's there in Tyler, which if you don't know Mario's, cool place. Definitely got to check that out. Speaking of, I remembered it's coffee talk, not just talk. It's good coffee. All right. So So here's a question about the petition, because I did get some other questions about this, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of wrap these together. So people want to know what's happening with the petition. So let me address what you're talking about here, Corinne, which is the petitions have an expiration date, right? The signatures technically have an expiration date of 180 days, right? So it's basically a 180-day sliding window, and that's just the way that it works. Okay. That's what the code calls for. Some people have asked what's going on with the Abbott and the petition campaign. I will tell you, you'll be seeing something about that shortly. It will be a call to action, something we're going to need you to do in relation to that, because if you'll remember, we delivered the petition signatures that were rejected by the Republican Party and the other petition signatures we got, which were for the Democratic primary. We bundled them all up and delivered them to Governor Abbott's office to call for a special session on this issue. Now, I would tell you that, and I would caution you that a special session right now over the independence issue is still going to be populated by the same people that made the last legislative session a dumpster fire. Okay, so I'm telling you, don't hope for too much there. Okay. But that being said, what does this? What are we doing with the petitions movement? The petitions are done, right? However, we are still, and I said this the last time we were together, we are working with the attorneys now and are working through the process of what that's going to look like on the other side of the convention, with litigation in relation to the petition. And so I cannot and will not speak on pending legal matters. But I will say this, a lot of what we're going to do in relation to that is going to be completely contingent upon our ability to fund it, right? Which essentially says if we don't get the revenue in, specifically, because you got to remember, I mean, this is, if it's not over in the legal defense fund, then it would have to come out of GR, which cuts down on our ability to go out there and engage Texas voters and do a lot of those things. You got to take from one to give to the other, and you got to figure out what your priority is. So a lot of it's going to be contingent upon our ability to fund it. So bear that in mind. I would encourage you, as a matter of fact, I get to answer this other question too. Speaking of, this gives me an opportunity to do this, which is I would encourage you, if the work we're doing is worthwhile to you, then head over to the donation page, right? Head over to donate.tnm.me. Specifically, I put this up because I was asked by Scott where we stood on the fundraising for the state GOP convention, because we will have an organizational presence there. And of our 30,000 goal, as of when this was taken, we've raised $19,074 specifically for this. So there's the address if you want to go make a contribution there. If that's not your cup of tea, but you want to help with the effort, I would encourage you to go over just to donate.tnm.me and make a contribution. Right? That's the way these things work. Like, that's how that booth happened. If you'll recall, the last time we talked about this, I said, look, I'm not a fan, right? I have personally decidedly some mixed feelings. And I said, unless something changes, then, we probably won't have them. Well, circumstances change. And what I did was I put it out there and said, okay, guys, if you want this, you will fund it. And if you don't fund it, then that tells us everything we need to know about whether you want it or not. And that's kind of the bottom line. You guys said you wanted it. You funded it, but we still got some distance to the goal. So make a note of that. And look, there it is, bottom of the screen right now. Donate, tnm.me/donate. That's so clever. Okay, moving right along. Adrian asks, is the Republican Party the right party to move things forward with, or should we create a new state party to helm the future? After all, when we become our own nation again, any deviations we can make from what made the United States into what it is today, the better off we'll be. at the very least, this new party would be able to put pressure on the state Republican Party. It's an interesting question, Adrian, and it's one that we've gotten before. And I will tell you, if you are not familiar with the history of the TNM, prior to our founding in 2005, we had a pretty intensive 2-year period of study in relation to independence movements around the world, historical, contemporary. I mean, it's just part of that study was looking at election law, looking at the political landscape here in Texas, because you can't take what some other independence movement did 40 years before and make it a perfect overlay and just do that, because it doesn't work. You've got to take the principles, the core things, the fundamentals, and you've got to be able to apply them to the situation that you're in right now. And that situation we're in Texas with the Texas election code, which is draconian and Byzantine and confusing and ridiculous. And this actually, oddly enough, goes back to the conversation, the very beginning of Coffee Talk tonight, where I talked about how the political parties have effectively are private organizations, but have become grafted into election law. And as such, they are sort of quasi-public / private entities where they have all of these crazy rules and regulations, but they also have this power, and the hurdle keeps getting raised. So the barrier to entry for anyone who might challenge the duopoly becomes higher and higher, something that we've seen time and time again. So part of the discussion in the founding of the TNM prior to was one of the questions: do we do this as an independent organization, or do we do it as a political party? And under the status quo as it is right now, for the TNM to do what it needs to do on the issue that we work with, our primary mission, being a political party is not congruent with success in our mission. It's just not. And there's an extensive article. I would encourage you to go to the TNM news site, news.tnm.me, and search for Brexit Party. There is a pretty long dissertation in there, if I remember correctly, because it's been a while, where I break a lot of this down, because we get this all the time, right? I mean, they see when the Brexit Party, before the UK had officially left the European Union, the Brexit Party ran candidates for member of the European Parliament in the European parliamentary elections, and they got a chunk of them elected to the European Parliament right as the UK was getting ready to get out the door. And people saw that and said, well, look at that. There's a sign. We could totally get TEXIT Party people elected. And it's like, well, apples and oranges. The Brexit Party was able to get people in the European Parliament, excuse me, simply because they are elected by proportional representation. We don't have that here. We have first past the post. And so that's why, go count how many libertarians are in your Texas legislature right now, and you will understand the difficulty. Or go talk to any of the officials in the Libertarian or the Green Party and ask them about the challenges they have just being able to get ballot access. If all of your effort is consumed on just trying to work the machine to get a seat at the table, that's effort that's not being spent in growing the numbers out there among the people. And remember, all political power is inherent in the people, not the party. Okay. Fundamental, very important. All right. Wow. You guys are peppering me with questions. Hang on. Let's see what we got here. Okay, it's a good one, man. You guys are stacking me up. Frank wants to know, and this would have to be the last question because I got a couple things I need to go over with you guys. But Frank wants to know, why does the TEXIT referendum bill not use mandatory language? And not sure what specific part you're talking about, but I will venture a guess and say, basically, why does it not my guess is what you're asking, why does it not mandate the governor to do something or something along those lines? And I will tell you, the original, if you go look at the draft of the bill that's in the TEXIT book, right? If you look at the draft of the bill, it is different than what Biederman filed with House Bill 1359. And here's the reason. The reason, when it went to Ledge Council, when the draft went to Ledge Council, which is the group of lawyers that make sure that everything stays congruent with the Constitution, it's basically the first sieve. You could file something around Ledge Council, but if your bill contains something that is patently unconstitutional, then it goes down, right? But the language that mandated action by the governor, okay, because there's a specific clause in that original draft that requires the governor to call a special session. You can't mandate the governor to call a special session because it is a discretionary power under the Texas Constitution. And so you can't mandate that he engage in a discretionary act by an act of the legislature, right? You would have to pass a constitutional amendment to do that. When you do that, that raises the bar to 2/3, right? Now you got to get super majorities in both the House and Senate. So the options were convert the bill to a constitutional amendment, which would, again, raise the bar, make it harder for us to get it passed through the legislature, or leave it as it is, but utilize some of the language that was included with the Convention of States legislation that had passed a few sessions prior that established the committee. In other words, you basically put a trigger provision in there that keeps the ball moving forward. So you don't just have the vote and that's the vote and that's it, and then nobody knows what to do. Sure, you got a political mandate, but whatever. Instead, what we did was we used that the transitional committee, effectively is what it is, would be formed at the bill's passage, but would never sit unless the vote came back in the affirmative. But once it did, they had direction as to what they were supposed to do. That you could do by legislative act. You could mandate the legislature do something without, going through the constitutional hurdle. So I think that's what you're probably talking about. I was less than thrilled that we couldn't make the governor do anything, but come on. I mean, really, we already knew that, right? It's almost impossible to make the governor do anything. Hopefully, Frank, that's what you were asking. So, all right, guys. Well, that's going to be it. I am right about out of time, but here's what I want to do. I'm going to encourage you to do this because I got to really tell you. Now, I showed you this a moment ago, right? But look, if you have not been spending any time over on the TNM websites as of late, you're missing some great things. Not only the news site that I mentioned a moment ago, which is staying jam-packed, but many of you may have missed the fact that, boom, we rolled out a brand new site for members, right? For membership. And there it is right there. I mean, it's gorgeous. And not only that, we rolled out new membership perks along with it. So if you are not a member of the Texas Nationalist Movement, now is a great time to make that happen. Just head over to tnm.me/join. You'll see it there on the bottom of the screen. But we've got perks, bonus, exclusive content. There's all kinds of things going on. And frankly, folks, we need you right now. The road is long. The work is hard. And we got to have all hands on deck, and we've made it easier than ever for each of you to grab a piece of this and help march this thing along to the finish line. Additionally, as part of those membership perks, hang on, let me go here. As part of those membership perks, you get access to the TNM's research library, right? This is something that has been extraordinarily useful to me, and basically all of the research material that we use in the TNM, we're making available to members of the TNM here on the research library. So when you become a member of the TNM, if you go over to library.tnm.me, you'll get access to academic research, papers, educational guides. I mean, you get all kinds of things that's available there. And it's all the stuff that we use. And in fact, if we find something that is helpful that we need, whether it's academic research, polling data, whatever it is, we get it. If it proves to be useful, we're adding it to the research library and making it available to every one of you as well. So it will ever be expanding. We have probably, I don't know, probably a good 3 terabytes, 4 terabytes of archival and research material that we're going to have to slowly go through and get on that research library. But it's a ton. I mean, you'll be able to spend weeks and weeks and weeks there for those of you that are super wonkish about such things. Additionally, you may have missed it. We launched a new about section for the website. It has used to be a single page. Now, if you want to go learn more about us, our mission, our principles, the leaders in the organization, you can head over to about.tnm.me or just click the about link on the main page of the Texas Nationalist movement. So look, ever expanding. I mean, we've got a big one that's getting ready to drop for you guys. And I'm excited. I thought about teasing it tonight, but I'm not going to say anything till we launch because frankly, it's that big. So a couple of final things as we wrap up Coffee Talk tonight. Number one, see the return of the Texas News Podcast as soon as I can get up there and recover from the storm. And number two, I just want to say how much I appreciate each and every single one of you. I don't get to see you enough unless I'm on the road or here. But the fact that you are here with us day in and day out, and I don't just mean on Coffee Talk, I mean in this fight, it absolutely means the world. This fight can become overwhelming sometimes. Look, there are sometimes it seems that there are as many bad days as there are good days. So many challenges. We have, probably 10 times the resistance that some normal political club would have. But guys, we're changing the world. We're making a difference. I mean, we're pushing this thing farther than it's ever been pushed before. We're making progress that, frankly, no one ever said we could do. And it's important, I think, for me, from time to time, to just acknowledge the fact that, look, whether you may not be a member, you may not be a donor, you may not be a volunteer, but you're here. And that's at least something. And when the time comes, as we get closer, when you reach that point in your life where you say, you know what, I feel like I want a piece of this. I'll become a member, or I'll make a $5 or $10 contribution, or look, I'll go volunteer a couple hours of my time each month. When you're ready to do that, we're ready for you. But at the end of the day, understand that what we're doing matters. It's reverberating across the world, around the world right now. We're giving hope to the hopeless. We're giving voices to the voiceless, and we're giving choice to people that don't have choices, right? That felt like all of their choices were exhausted, or their futures had been squandered. The people who have just frankly given up, said, look, this politics thing, man, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I give up. We're giving people that opportunity to have that power restored to them, to grasp the pen of history and write their own future. And I got to tell you, you're a part of that. And it's important for us to know, I think, to acknowledge that as a team, because that's what we are. We're a community. We're a team. To acknowledge that it's incumbent that each and every one of us plays a part in this. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about us. It will always be about us, and it will be about the us that is yet to be born, because that's who we're doing this for. Yeah, we're doing it for ourselves. I mean, it'd be really cool. It'll be awesome to be able to take a lung full of air in a free and independent Texas. That'd be great. But understanding that we are building something lasting, we are building a legacy of freedom and independence that we can hand down from generations to generation, that they'll be able to read about this in history books hundreds of years from now. To build a legacy that says that we stood for something. It's a big deal. And so thank you for being a part of it. All right, my friends, that is going to be a wrap for Coffee Talk this week. Hopefully, I don't know what the calendar is. I think I may see you next week. We shall see. Keep checking your inbox and your email, and find out for sure. But in the meantime, I am going to. Gosh, this is my favorite part of this. But you probably already knew that, right? It's not. I'm going to leave you with the words I leave you with every time we're together. They're not my words. They're the words of Sam Houston when he said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. I believe that time is now. And the question is, will you stand with her? Good night, everyone.
Texas, our Texas, all hail the mighty state. Texas, our Texas, so wonderful, so great. Boldest and grandest, standing every test. Oh, empire wide and glorious, you stand supremely blessed. God bless you, Texas, and keep you brave and strong, that you may grow in power and worth throughout the ages long. Texas, oh Texas, your freeborn single star sends out